because we got the headline about Aaron Rodgers not making his way to the Minnesota Vikings, and also still lacking a home in the NFL. Kat, do you want to rescind your statement, or do you want to leave out that little slither of doubt because they never shut the door all the way closed? I mean, I saw one report that says if JJ McCarthy looks a little hobbled through OTAs and through training camp and Rodgers is still available, then maybe they spin the block. Do you want to – are you done?
Tell you what, that buzz on my phone while we were playing where it was like, Vikings say no to Rodgers. It's like a knife to the heart. Yeah. And I'm not a Vikings fan, and I'm not a Rodgers fan.
It is weird
I'm
that
a
you care so
football
much.
fan. And I made this crystal ball prediction about 3 months ago because it made sense to me. And I got laughed off the radio, not once, not twice, but countless times. And finally, it's been put to rest. Vikings will not be pursuing Aaron Rodgers. They're going to run with JJ McCarthy into 2025. It hurt. I'm not going to lie, Theo. This was my baby. I was first on this. Yeah. Even though it's not like I had sources or anything. I just said that, that's a good fit, and it would be pretty cool. It's not like I had a source inside, but I wish it happened. It's not going to.
Here's the thing that's weird to me, though. I mean, it made football sense in a way because that is a team that does feel like they are really good and they could use a future Hall of Fame level talent at quarterback. They just won 14 games last year with Sam Darnold, and most people before last season tipped off would have said, if the Vikings could swap out Sam Darnold for Aaron Rodgers right now, they would do it in a hurry. The reason why I have an issue with you saying that Rodgers should go there and an issue with the Vikings for even considering bringing that old fart into their locker room was because we just watched the football season where you won 14 games with Sam Darnold, and Rodgers got his way in New York. He had everything he could have asked for. He got his offensive coordinator. He got all of his friends. Even mid-season, he was able to get his buddy, his former number one target, Devontae Adams, to pull up on him, and they did their big coming-out party on the Pat McAfee show. It was all smug. It's like, oh, the league is in trouble. And how many wins did that amount to?
What?
How many wins?
6?
5.
5.
5.
I always go higher.
Yeah, because it seems like they should have won more football games, but Aaron Rodgers was that bad, and he's also that old, and he also can't move, and he also should not be a quarterback that you should be in pursuit of if you're trying to make the playoffs, because guess what he hasn't done in like 4 or 5 years?
Made the playoffs.
It's embarrassing what's happening right now in the NFL, and I don't like the fact that everybody's on this Rodgers chase. You know what I'm going to tell you is going to happen? Aaron Rodgers is going to end up being the Bill Belichick of this NFL offseason. Everybody's going to assume that if there is a quarterback-needy team or if there is a coach-needy team, they're going to be in major pursuit of Rodgers, just like last offseason. 18 different teams were linked to Bill Belichick, even teams that had head coaches that would stay in place. People were like, they should fire him and hire Bill Belichick. Guess what they didn't do? Fall for that BS. I don't think teams are going to do the same thing this offseason. He's running out of homes.
I guess so, but I would pause on that because it's a worse scenario for Rodgers because, you don't really deteriorate as a head coach, but we're seeing his body deteriorate and him not be as mobile. As you mentioned, the Achilles injury just took a toll on both he and Kirk Cousins, and we saw both of it just collapse in 2024. I don't think that bringing Aaron Rodgers into your locker room is radioactive, as many are assuming it to be. I thought that it would be a low-risk, high-reward maneuver, and if it goes wrong, it just is over. You don't have to pay him that much money, and now you have the future.
It's a waste of a year. Wouldn't it be
you wouldn't have to play him the entire year.
So wouldn't it be a waste of not just resources, because to get Aaron Rodgers, you do have to sign him to a contract, which I don't think he's going to be the kind, because of his ego, to agree to a contract that is the vet minimum just so that the Jets can pay him. I think he actually must be seeking out money.
Daniel Jones got paid $14 million to be a backup quarterback.
It's crazy. I mean, I think that was a bad decision, and also I think that there's a lot of tea leaves that tell us the Colts might be paying him to be the starter, which I think is also more insane.
So paying Aaron Rodgers, what's the vet minimum? I don't know, but it's not close to $14 million. If they could pay him $6 million, I think that is close. That is a great value for the reward you could have gotten with Aaron Rodgers. It's a slim chance. It's not a great chance. We saw the last couple of years of Aaron Rodgers, not just with the Jets, but with the Packers, but with the tools that you would be surrounding Aaron Rodgers with the winning ethos and mentality of the Vikings organization, how healthy it is there. I thought it would have been worth a shot, but clearly the brass in Minnesota Kevin O'Connell thought otherwise.
So, number one, I got to say this is a reassurance that they feel like JJ should be their franchise quarterback. And if you felt that way back in the draft based off of what he did at Michigan winning the national championship, his workouts, his combine and everything like that, if you felt that strongly about him, and then also let's not forget, before last season kicked off, JJ McCarthy had he had a couple pops in the preseason. Like, he was actually looking good on the field, so much so that they were leaning in on possibly starting him over Sam Darnold come week one. They hadn't made the decision yet, and then his torn meniscus in his right leg, stripped that decision away from them. And they said, okay, Sam Darnold, sure ball game. JJ, rehab, we'll have you next season. That works out. So if that's your plan as KOC, if you feel that strongly about this young kid who's now going to be 22 years old, he's athletic, he has a big enough arm for what you feel like your offense is going to be ran, and then you come up on a chance to go and get Aaron Rodgers, I just feel like if Rodgers had a better season for the Jets, if it at least looked adequate, if there was any redeemable quality that came out of New York this past year, then maybe you flirt with that a little heavier. But there wasn't. And then there's 2 straight years of us seeing that the juice ain't worth the squeeze. It's like bland crawfish. Have you ever had like bland crawfish?
I've only had crawfish once and wasn't a fan.
Aaron Rodgers is bland crawfish because eating crawfish is such a social endeavor. Cracking the tail open, having to peel it all back so you can get to that little bitty piece of meat. It's a task. Mm-hmm. It's a task if you've ever been to a crawfish boil. That's why it's a social food. You're not meant to just sit there and eat crawfish by yourself. It's supposed to be at a big boil.
You don't eat and get out. I know that's like a 2-3 hour trip to the restaurant.
You are sitting in place for a minute. And the reason why I say he's bland crawfish is because there's nothing worse than cracking open a crawfish. Fresh out the boil, it's juicy red. It looks really good and ripe. You're ready to go after it. You peel the tail off. You peel all the layers of the shell back off of it. You rip the legs off. You got that piece of meat right there. It's only like an inch and a half long, right? It's not a lot.
But you worked for it.
But you worked for it. And then you pop it in your mouth and nothing. No juices out of it. It's a little dry. There's not a lot of flavor. It's not spicy at all. Bland crawfish is the worst thing in the world because you got to hustle so much for it. You go through this long battle for it. The expectations are through the roof. And you got nothing. To me, that's what Aaron Rodgers is. That's what I mean by the juice ain't worth the squeeze. And that's what I mean by if you're going to win 5 games in your perfect ecosystem out in New York, why would I take you into what I feel like is a winning situation and a quarterback that I've had in my system for a full year, that I've taught all of the parameters of my offense. He knows all of the checks. I don't have to go through anything with this kid because I literally have had a full season of just training with him. Why would I punt on that for a 41-year-old?
Because you don't want to. You're talking about a waste of a season. I think it would be a waste of this Vikings roster as it was constructed last year and this year to develop a rookie quarterback.
What's so strong about this roster? What is this roster? You're all up in your arms about how good
defense
this roster is.
Defense was really good last year.
Yeah, but it's not the roster. It was Flores is one of the best defensive coordinators, and he schemed up a great defense. It's not like they have all these names that they have a lot of money invested into. They just went and got Jonathan Allen on the defensive line, which was a big spend. But I don't think this is a win-now roster based on what they were paying him last year.
Well, you still have Jordan Addison on his rookie contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Justin Jefferson got paid before Jamar Chase, so you have to wait a couple of years at least. You never know with these contracts nowadays where everyone want to go back to the negotiating table.
Yeah.
But you still locked him up. I think you want to strike now while the iron's hot because these Super Bowl windows, and the Vikings believe that they are in a Super Bowl window.
Yes.
When you win 14 games, that is the expectation come playoffs. They can shut very quickly. And striking while the iron's hot is exactly what I thought would be a move to go to Aaron Rodgers right now would entail.
But we... Okay, so what
it's
about
a swing for the fence,
what about
and you might swing and a miss, and then you're down 0-1, and that's okay. JJ McCarthy, come on in. We missed on that $6 million investment or whatever they would have paid Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I just don't think that that's a chance that's not worth it. I think it is worth taking that chance on Aaron Rodgers, even though I'm at the highest on him. Yeah. I know the ceiling of him is very high, and we saw it throughout his career.
To be honest with you, I think the ceiling is higher on JJ McCarthy this year than
as
Aaron
a rookie.
Rodgers.
As
right
a rookie.
Now, as a second-year player.
But you have nothing tangible about him in the NFL.
The ceiling is higher on JJ McCarthy this year than Aaron Rodgers, and that's the decision that the Vikings made themselves. It's not just me. It's them. It's Kevin O'Connell, the head coach who in 3 years in Minnesota is 34-17. I don't think it's just a bet on JJ McCarthy. It's also a bet on the skills and the talent and the ecosystem that Kevin O'Connell's been able to create